Hi, thanks for joining me for another video. In this video, I want to talk a bit about some of the things that happened over the last few days as a follow-up of the last video I posted on Sunday night, I think going into Monday morning. I was attacked very heavily with direct energy weapons on Sunday, very heavily. Probably the worst, I think, overall that I've been attacked. And not only that, but there was an attempt, and I may lose a couple of people when I say this, there was also, unfortunately, energy, attachments, spiritual attachments that were, because of the fact that my physiology, my mind was so plastic as a result of these attacks. There were entities that tried to basically form to attach themselves to me, okay? And I feel like that was very deliberate, okay? You don't have to go that far to see that these practices are actually a reality. They're not abstract at all, okay? And this is all very deliberate. Why is this being done? And this isn't about blame, okay? Not at all, all right? This isn't about blame at all, okay? The reason why I think this is being done, that was done to me on Sunday specifically, is because I put messages about Jesus on during the day on Sunday, and I don't know, I can't remember if it was on Saturday as well, maybe, but definitely on Sunday I posted messages about Jesus, channeled messages, and I think someone, from what I can intuit, believe me, that I was not thinking at all that this would happen, despite everything that I've been through. But although it has crossed my mind at times, but still, nonetheless, what I experienced on Sunday was a very, very, it was a horror. It was really bad, really bad. And so I believe that basically there are people out there who don't want me to be looked at as a messenger, okay? They don't want me to be looked at as like a prophet or a messenger. They don't want me to be looked at as potentially another Messiah, or me to think that I'm a Messiah. And I want to be really clear, like, I don't think I'm not, if you know me, you know that I'm not the sort of person that I actively try to shed labels, okay? Actively. I am not the sort of person who's going to walk around thinking, yeah, I'm the next Messiah. That's not me at all, okay? I try to be humble. I work actively all the time, every day. In fact, I go the opposite direction. I don't want an identity from this stuff, okay? I try to bring other people into everything I do. Okay, I try to keep them in mind all the time. Okay, so I'm not looking to be the next Jesus. Okay, I know I'm Soraya, I'm not Jesus. Okay, but I have had plenty of communication from Jesus and other beings and God and all sorts of other beings. Okay, the fact that that's not convenient to some others is, again, is the issue here. And I believe that this likely, again, is to do with people not wanting certain, like, deviations from doctrine to happen on the planet. The Catholic Church being one of them, Judaism, people who are particularly, have certain Zionist beliefs, perhaps, as well, who don't want things to be a certain way, okay, and it's not their fault. I'm not accusing anyone specifically of anything. I've heard some things, but I'm not accusing anyone specifically of anything here. I couldn't tell you for sure exactly who did it. I have a sense of who could have done it, okay? But this isn't about that. This isn't about blame, okay? This isn't about blame. What I'm more concerned about is that we have a world and a society where people are actively harming others, actively harming people who are innocent and who've done nothing to them, okay, who don't deserve to be treated this way. And I don't deserve to be treated this way. Nobody deserves it. But again, this isn't about me. I don't care about me, okay? I care about what this represents on the planet, okay? And for people to be doing things like this, you've got to wonder, like, you're sabotaging and I know it's not about me. I know there are complex, and I even accounted for this as well, that this could have been, I mean, on the night, I believe that this is possibly to do with people in my own country, for instance, possibly attacking me because of things I've said about Freemasonry, because of things that I've said about things that make they feel compromise our national security. Although, what is, I mean, and it's a complex world, and I understand these people are under like a lot of pressure, and I'm not asking them for anything, okay? I'm not asking them for anything, and if it is to do with us, okay, in that sense, I'm not asking them for anything. I'm observing it. I know that there are complex dynamics and that there are people under immense pressures out there. It's a very complex world that we live in. But I believe this more than likely has to do with the ideological aspect, okay? That people don't like the idea that I'm spreading channel messages about Jesus, and all these other things, that people want to have their own ideas about what that means and what they want. They want it to fit a certain box, and they want to look at me a certain way, and basically they want to destroy my life. As a result, I don't care about, I really don't care about me, I don't care. I care that this, I care, what I care about the most, like I said, is what the fact that people out there are self-sabot, like, are put in these positions where they are basically hurting themselves to hurt other people, and they don't realize they're doing it, perhaps because maybe they're in a forced position, or maybe they have an idea about something that isn't correct, and that, again, that's not their fault. We all get, again, it's not their fault, okay? And that may be so, but also like sabotaging what could be things that actually could help people. Like, I'm trying to do is share things that could actually help others, like, that could raise awareness about like planetary changes and consciousness insight, break this human trauma cycle that's on the planet that causes these conflicts and problems in the first place, okay? And I don't think I have all the answers by any means, but I certainly think that, like, I've had an experience of things, and I've had a tough life, okay? A really tough life, okay? And what I've been through is, nobody should have to go through what I've been through. Nobody, okay? And there are other people out there who've suffered as well. And my concern is with making sure that other people, children, future generations, don't have to go through these things, and genuinely, not for the sake of grandstanding or ego, but genuinely because nobody should have to go through this, okay? Nobody should have to live lives like, like these people in these communities where they're forced to do these things, or like myself, like people in countries where they've got no food, they have to beg people online to get food and shelter and water. Again, like, this is my intention. It's not to be portrayed as like a messiah. It's to share things from experience and grace that I've received from God, all it is, and messages out of, like, because genuinely these are acts of grace. I'm not trying to say that I'm Jesus Christ, okay, or like I'm someone really special. I believe that Jesus, again, I don't believe Jesus wanted to be looked at as a messiah, okay? I don't believe Jesus wanted to make people to make a cult out of him, or to make a huge religious like movement around him per se. Although that he said, like, he's happy for people to use him as a gateway to God. He's happy for that, okay? He said that to me. But nonetheless, I don't believe he wanted people to use his name necessarily, or his teachings, and use them, or warp them in ways that you end up like attacking people with direct energy weapons to preserve certain doctrines or whatever, okay? I don't believe that that's what Jesus was trying to or wanted. I think he wanted people to go within and seek things for themselves. I don't think he wanted to make himself into like some sort of, like I said, like people to make a dogma out of him, like to make, I think he wanted just to teach people things and to encourage people to go within and find truth. It's as simple as that, okay? Like, but we've created, like, and again, it's again, I'm not blaming people, but we just have this thing in our world where anybody who sort of sticks their head above the parapet, so to speak, is basically like, either glorified in ridiculous ways, which they cut to which, and then as soon as they make a mistake, they are sort of, and I'm not saying this is me, by the way, but I'm just saying that, like, we have a cult of celebrity, a cult of idolization that really is taking us away from our personal connection to truth and who we are and God. And that's really what we should be focusing on, is going within. And if you want to use Jesus as inspiration, by all means you can do that, okay? And I use Jesus all the time. Every day I think about Jesus. I'm not Christian or Catholic, but I do think I do use Jesus. I mean, Jesus, even when I was an atheist, I was inspired by Jesus. Even when I was an atheist, I love Jesus' teachings. Okay, and so his teachings are universal. Okay, they're not for one group of people over the other. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to share, is messages of, like, that can be applied, that all people can, who hopefully relate to, or can be accessible. And I'm not saying I'm entitled to anybody's attention or anybody relating to those messages. I would love that if that were the case. Okay, I'd love that if that were the case. But again, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that God loves all things unconditionally. There's no chosen group of people, and I know people don't want me to say that, okay? That, like, I know there are some people out there who don't want me to say that there are no chosen people. There are no chosen people, okay? There's no chosen people. There's no chosen group of people, okay? We are all chosen by God. All of us are God's creation. All of us. Everything. The cutlery in your kitchen, this rose in front of me, you, the TV, whatever. Like, it's all part of God. Like, it's all God's creation, it's all loved unconditionally. Everything has love woven into it. Everything is loved. Like, everything is loved without reservation, okay? And God loves everything, but it understands perfectly everything, all the subtle influences and all things, I'm not telling people what to believe, okay? Because as much as I can sit here and rant on a video, I actually sit back a lot and reflect on what other people's beliefs are, and thinking about how they may be thinking about things, and try and have love and respect for that, okay? Because I believe that matters, okay? More than my story, more than my messages, more than whatever I've received, okay? I believe that that's the case. So what are we doing here? Like I said, we're kind of sabotaging ourselves, and this isn't about blame, but it's just like, take a moment and just think, like, what can we do? Like, what can we do to change this? People are doing the best they can with what they have and what they know and the positions they're in, and there's no one better than anyone else. There's no one who's more insightful than anyone else. There's no one who's more there's no one who matters more than anyone else. Everything has its place. There's a reason for everything. We're all in this together, okay? So what are we going to do about what's the answer, okay? I think breaking this conflict cycle and trauma cycle is one of the key things. And what we need is, for that, as I've said many, many times, is we need consciousness awareness to be devolved from the military and intelligence communities as much as possible into the mainstream awareness. And then we can have more of an appreciation of what the phenomenon is, okay, non-human intelligence, which is real, okay? Then we can have, or in tandem, have disclosures that, with that consciousness, awareness, and insight, we have the possibility, I believe, of universal amnesty, because, once people have a sense that, oh gosh, actually, we're not our bodies, we have souls, however you want to put it, Oh gosh, that possibility opens up to people, that reality opens up to people. Other things then are more easily understood, like such as for instance, the message that God's love is universal and unconditional. Okay, and on that basis, and there is no hell, and on that basis, what we can afford universal amnesty for that reason, and also because with consciousness, insight, and appreciation, we can also understand the influence of the phenomenon on human consciousness, which is significant. Okay, their influence is significant. Okay, on our day, on our thinking, on our experiences in our world. They influence this global cabal because of their interest in divination. They have influenced them for many hundreds of years. Okay, thousands of years. Okay, many in certain traditions. And so they have influenced humanity for a long time, but for people to grasp that, to understand that, to appreciate that, consciousness awareness is needed. And there's a huge human rights aspect, humanitarian aspect to this as well. Okay, a lot of these people in these communities are stuck, hemmed in. They're restricted because of the way of the world, and we have to look at the way of the world with a clear eye. But we also have to. I believe that having that consciousness insight made public, made more, brought out, devolved more into the world, could really help to liberate people, because they'll be able to understand then, like the appreciate how these beings can actually, that we're not sealed off units, that these beings can affect us, okay, through our consciousness. Okay, and at that point then we have the possibility of appreciating why people do things the way they do them. We have the opportunity for universal amnesty. We have the ability then to advance disclosures more rapidly, because people will feel free then to share what they know. The fact is, like I said, that people have been influenced in such a way that harms them and others in the process. Lies that have been told to them, in various ways about who they are. And God looks at us all as its eternal children, as I've said. Okay? It looks at us as all as its eternal children. And it loves all of us unconditionally. And I think with the combination of that compassion for those influences that people can't help, and the mechanisms within consciousness, I believe we have a good recipe there for universal amnesty. Okay, I'm talking about universal amnesty for all crimes, no matter what it is, all crimes. Okay, because I promise you, there is a way that there's a formula for looking at these things and all kinds of everything, really, the way we live our lives in consciousness. A formula again, or like a scaffolding of a formula, so to speak, obviously not literally a formula, but you know what I mean, hopefully, that we can look at, we can apply, like a template that I think that we can apply and can probably be built upon, or like added to, where we can appreciate why people do things in a way that sort of takes away blame and replaces it with understanding and compassion. Okay, and we need more of that. And it is possible. We are capable of more of that than we believe. Okay, that we've been told about to think about ourselves, I think. But then there we go. So if we can highlight, if we can raise awareness about the influence of the phenomenon to the public, okay, and make we have a good shot at breaking this trauma cycle through, and also advancing disclosures, which we sorely need because of this geomagnetic pole shift and AMOC decline. We need this power structure, so to speak, that we have must be dismantled. Okay, it must be. It's got to go. No more. Okay, and it's not because I don't like these people or I think they're evil. I don't. I just think, I think for everybody's sake, for humanity's sake, for the sake of our future generations, for the sake of our consciousness, we need to stop. We need to stop. We need to stop with the whole And again, it's not people's fault, okay? You know, there are lots of good things that have come from these things. Things they've been beneficial to humanity in many ways, but also lots of detrimental things as well. And it's hurt these people as much as it's hurt us, okay? So we need to help each other over the line. So in that regard, we need to help each other, okay? Help each other through this. What was I going to say? Yeah, so finally, so I was attacked, like I said, on Sunday evening and overnight for several hours. I mean, you know, like I said, just gotta look at like these people, the positions they're put in to do, you know, asked to do these things or compelled to do these things, like how they're harming themselves in the process, okay? It's really, we shouldn't be asking this of each other, okay? We shouldn't be asking this or putting people in these positions. We shouldn't be asking this of each other, okay? There shouldn't be that people, innocent human, like these people who've come into this world, like it shouldn't be that this is like, we should be working towards a more peaceful planet, where people, you know, don't feel threatened in such a way that they end up destroying people's brains, you know, in the process, but also harming themselves, you know, significantly through these acts, telling themselves they're very harmful people who harm other people, essentially, when they're doing that, okay? So yeah, an ideology, you know, is driving a lot of this, okay? But a lot of scared people as well who probably need grace and compassion, and also some kind words, and maybe someone to tell them, you know, you're not evil, there's nothing to be afraid of, and you do matter, you do serve, you know, you're wonderful, and just a bit of compassion and mercy and forgiveness, and you are understood. You know, like I said, you are understood. Like, I think there are a lot of people out there behind this who probably need to hear those things, who probably need the world to believe in them more than the people in the world probably think, okay? That's what I think, personally. That's what I kind of think in the root of this. A lot of this is, okay? So coming out of separation and being more gracious towards one another, you know, and seeing the vulnerability and the humanity in these people, and how we, you know, like I said, a lot of these people are very scared, or acting, like I said, acting out of fear, or fear-based narratives, or, you know, have no choice. That, you know, I mean, like I said, I think there are a lot of people out there who need that forgiveness, okay, or need to be let off the hook, and we can do that. We can do it, because if we don't do that, all we're going to do is keep this cycle going. These people are just going to stay underground, and they should be brought up to the surface. Okay, we should look at this as a tragedy. When people are pushed in these positions, what is talking to them, telling them this rubbish? What lies are in their head about who they are? We should look at it as a tragedy, okay, for humanity, that this is the case. Okay, I think so anyway. It's awful, okay, that this happens to people. It shouldn't happen. And so yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna end it here. You know, I pray to God that this doesn't happen again to me. But, you know, again, it's not about me. It's about the state of the world, and these people as well who are doing these things, what is compelling them to do them, okay? So thank you very much for listening, and take care.